good, and it's a wonderful place, and you get let go of the hand, and you are lost. Those very things look like monsters trying to attack you, and the child cries and howls. Nothing can give happiness to the child. It's the same carnival, it's the same show, but the effect is totally different. You are lost the grip of security. You had a security, and therefore you could enjoy it. When you lose the security, it becomes a place of horror. The same thing. Life is exactly like that. When you have a secure hand of somebody strong who takes care of you, then life is a great joy, and you can really enjoy it to the maximum. But if you let go and have to handle on your own, the very things that you are going to enjoy becomes horrible, and they become terrorizing for you. So what does it mean? When you're grown up, you still feel terrorized by this world because you're not holding the hand of somebody who is grown up and knows what the show is about. That is why we have come to the belief that if you have a perfect living master in your life and you hold his hand, you get the same security the child gets when he's in a carnival, in a show, and holding the hand of his father or his mother. The same thing. If you have the hand of somebody whose awareness of this world is such that such a person can give you the security, because he or she knows where we are, what we are doing, and how temporary we are here. If you come here just to have a good time and go away, when you have that hand in you, and you hold that hand, you are secure, then you can enjoy this world. That is why the spiritual path is not merely a set of exercises to do. It's a relationship with somebody whose awareness is different from ours, whose awareness goes beyond the fact that this is not all reality. There's more than this to see as reality. And to hold the hand of such a person gives us the kind of security. Then we can be on the spiritual path. I am now almost 82 years old. I have spent my whole life studying this spiritual path. I have been to more gurus than any one of you can ever imagine. I have been to more teachers. I have tried to learn all that they could teach. And I have been with a great master, a perfect living master. And I can tell you after my life's experience that trying to go on a spiritual path or a solo journey does not work. You have to have somebody to hold his hand. Then you get the security. Then you have a great time in this world as well as a great time on your spiritual journey. That's why it's so important. I have always felt it is very important. People sometimes discuss with me the importance of a perfect living master. That if the whole truth is inside us, if we can discover the reality within ourselves, why do we need an intermediary outside? There is a good question that can't we find the truth inside us? Why do we need an intervention of an outside person to find what is inside us? But the truth is, we know nothing about what is inside us. And there is somebody who knows. Not only he knows what is inside us, he knows the inside of each individual. And that is why the spiritual path is not a successful path if you do not have a perfect living master who knows a lot more about this world as well as any other worlds that exist, knows a lot more of what constitutes life besides the life of this body. And when you have the hand of such a person, you can truly be on a spiritual path and at the same time be contented with this life. At the same time enjoy this life and have less worry, less insecurity, less fear, less doubt. These are essential. And what happens when you are on the spiritual path is, these are the things that you really banish. And if nothing else, I think it's a great achievement that the spiritual path can give you fearlessness. You're not afraid of anything. It can give you certainty. You don't have doubts about everything that you see. You know what is real, what is not real. You know what is you are going through. It's a different life altogether. And then once you are living in a state of certainty and fearlessness, the whole life changes. Everything changes. Because most of our suffering is self-created because of these two things. When I see people crying and they are suffering, I go behind the suffering. Why are they suffering? Why are they having this problem? and find that the real problem is self-created because of these two things. Their fear, their doubt. If they didn't have these two, the suffering would disappear. But so much of the suffering is made up because of these. Therefore, I feel that if there is no higher success or higher experience on the spiritual path, at least this is guaranteed, that if you are on the spiritual path, with a friend as a perfect living master, as your friend, and you're holding the hand of a perfect living master and living your life like that, in the confidence of a person who knows more in awareness about this life, then you have the best deal possible, and you become gradually fearless as well as certain about what's going to happen and how to meet it, how to cope up with it. The ability to cope up with things comes with a sense of certainty, not with doubt. When you're in doubt about everything, you don't know how to cope up with anything. And people are always in a state of confusion. Where does confusion come from? People talk to me about confusion. I am very confused. And I sometimes at one stage in life would not understand what that meant. Because how can you be confused about anything? If you know, how can you be confused? You can only be confused if you don't know, if you are in doubt, and you're trying to find out all the different possibilities of what may happen. You are afraid what may happen. You are afraid something bad is going to happen. You are afraid this thing will make it worse. When your mind thinks like that, you are confused what to do. If I did this, will it be good for me, bad for me? All the time we can be in a state of confusion if we are in a state of uncertainty and therefore in a state of fear. But if the spiritual path changes you up to this point, that gives you a sense of certainty and gives you a sense of fearlessness, your confusion will disappear. Confusion does not come that easily. And if you're not a confused person, you'll find it's very difficult to be confused. Here people make it very easy to get confused. They don't know what to do. They're not sure. They're in doubt. I sometimes tell people, tell me the 10 fears you have. Write down on a piece of paper. I am afraid of these 10 things. And they write down. And I said 9 of them will never happen. I can predict in advance. 9 of them will never happen. And they never happen. Which means that even if one of those 10 things was to happen which causes fear, we have multiplied the fear 10 times. For no reason. Because we didn't know. And you know, fear has always been described as fear of the unknown. When you don't know what will happen, you are more afraid. When you know what is going to happen, fear is replaced by some other emotions. How to handle it, how to cope with it. They tried these experiments in a jungle in India. Some of these psychologists who wanted to understand why the spiritual path people, why the people who are on spiritual path were not afraid and what causes fear. They were studying fear. They wrote books on fear. What makes us afraid? So they took a person, a subject, into the forest and said there is a lion roaming around in these Kumaon jungles, the jungles of Kumaon, one of the states in India. And there are a lot of lions there. And they would leave the person there and study his reaction. And he was afraid lion may come from any side. The less he knew where the lion was, the more afraid he was. The moment he knew where the lion was, he could escape, he could jump up. The entire process of the mental functioning changed from fear into an ability to run and escape. The two things were totally different. They discovered that our ability to cope up with things of this world increases considerably with knowledge. And the lack of knowledge only adds up to more fear. And this was a great experiment that they did. That the fear is of not knowing. The fear is not knowing. When you know something, you're less afraid. When you don't know, you're more afraid. I have talked to you enough about the thing that I recently learned. This just renewed my faith in the spiritual path and renewed my faith that if you have a perfect living master and his qualification is he should be perfect in his awareness, which perfection in awareness I've always felt is perfection in the knowledge beyond the mind. If you are caught up by your mind, you can't be perfect. The mind makes you imperfect all the time. So the perfection of a perfect living master consists in his awareness beyond the mind, that he can be aware of what he is beyond the mind and can make you aware of who you are beyond your mind. So long as you identify yourself with the mind, you cannot be perfect. You will remain imperfect. The mind makes you imperfect because the mind is the creator of doubt and fear. And you have to be above the mind to be that fearless and to have a sense of certainty. So therefore, if you can have a perfect living master in your life, and not only just have as an image, as a friend, as a personal friend, one to whom you can turn for advice, for help at all times, that kind of friendship. If you can have a friend like that, who has that awareness, you can make this whole life into a life of enjoyment, and a life like you come into a carnival. Of course, there are many adventures in the carnival. There are adventures where you want to take risks and you want to enjoy risk taking, but life becomes very good, and it's no longer what we have made of it today. If we made it a life of unhappiness, and that is why one of the mystics says, unhappiness has become the norm in this world. And if you go from house to house, people who look happy, spend 2 days with them and you find where they are unhappy. They try to live up to the Joneses, like they say, and try to be happy to show they are happy. They are not. They cry alone. And there is so much unhappiness built into our lives because of this lack of awareness. That this is a temporary thing. We have come here to have a good time, not to be unhappy. And therefore, let's deal with the problem of attachment in a different way than we have been doing it. So what is the solution? The problem is that by trying to detach, we do not achieve attachment. So if you are attached to one thing and you get more attached to something else, you automatically get detached from the first thing. That's the secret. The secret of detachment is you have to be more attached somewhere else. The secret is not to fight and be detached. If you are more attached, the more attached you are to something, and if you are more attached to something that is more real inside you, if you are more attached to your own real self, if you are more attached to a friend of yours who knows more of your real self than you do, that kind of strong attachment will make you detached from the other things. So it's real, true attachment that brings about detachment for us. And that is why if you can focus on one attachment, an attachment with the one whose awareness goes beyond this show, beyond this carnival, then that one attachment, strong attachment, can lead to a detachment with everything else, and the whole world becomes like a play. So that again is a role that is played by the perfect living master. It's a great role that we can find a human being, a perfect living master who's just like us. He's a friend like any other friend, and yet his awareness is different. His awareness goes beyond our awareness, and therefore such a friend can help us to be detached from this world and yet enjoy it at the same time. And these are just peripheral benefits. The real benefits of the spiritual path go way beyond that. If you have any questions to ask me, I'd be happy to answer. And if you have no questions, then you can give me the answers, the comments that you want.
Does the master ever encourage, like, or create a forced detachment
If he's really helpful, he can.
Pardon?
If he's really a friend and being helpful, he can.
And what is that process like?
He can make us go through an experience which to the mind may look like a disappointing experience, but may be spiritually helpful. Therefore, it's an experience of detachment.
So how is the
A
mind
good
would
friend can
perceive?
do that for us.
So how would the mind perceive that?
The mind perceives it as a disappointment, but in truth it is not. The mind perceives as a disappointment, and when our own self transcends the mind, we discover that it was not a disappointment. It is a very important step in our development.
And that could be appreciated
Older
over
you
hindsight.
That's
get, the more you
appreciated a lot.
understand what he's saying, that's for sure.
So many things that happen on the spiritual path we appreciate later on a lot more than at that time.
Is that a way for the master to like speed up the progress or the evolution of the
Yes.
soul or whatever?
Yes, otherwise if we allow the normal speed to go on and to allow us to go through experiences to get the regular disappointments of life and then make some progress, it can take several lifetimes. A master can speed it up.
So could we make the